All right.
And the last one that I created was right now. It lasted 36 months because it ran along with the COVID pandemic, which was very, very, very difficult to do. So anyway, I entered in this field of youth work merely by chance, but it worked for me. I enjoyed it. I learned. I screamed as well. I learned the hard way. So there were ups and downs, but anyway, that's what I did.
What is dyslexia, Mary Rose?
Dyslexia is a learning profile. I don't like to use the word disability, which is used. I don't like to use the word difficulty. I would say it is a profile because we are all different learners and we all learn in a different way. But dyslexia impacts you mostly because it is discovered, and hopefully it is discovered, because sometimes it isn't, when you are young, so in your formative years. And it impacts your school performance because it has to do with literacy, and everything has to do with literacy in the world and at school. So once you encounter that difficulty, it's like a barrier. It's like if I give you a text in Chinese and I tell you read it, you can't. You just can't, because those symbols that are part of the Chinese alphabet, I think it's called alphabet, you cannot encode them to get out the sounds, and you cannot merge the sounds together to make a word, because those symbols mean nothing to you. Now, dyslexia, in a very simple way, is definitely something like that. I'm not dyslexic myself. I found it very difficult to understand my children who had dyslexia before I discovered the first of my children who had dyslexia. I couldn't understand because she was intelligent. She could list all the oceans at 7 years because it was part of her geography. So imagine Pacific, Atlantic, these words that are specific. They're not everyday usage words, they're specific. But she could remember those. And she could remember maths, like the method. So she was definitely not what we would call, and it's not the right word, like not learning to read because she's stupid. What is stupid? It's a horrible word, because actually nobody is. So there was this like mismatch. Like, how can this girl, who is outgoing and everything, and she's age appropriate and everything, how can she not read? I remember there was the word look. Just L-O-O-K. And I would like, look. There's the eyes in the middle, look. Then you turn the page, these books when children are 7 years old and 6 years old, they have a lot of repeats of the same word. And there's a big picture and there's just one sentence. So before I discovered this, she used to just flip the book. She used to know it by heart. So for me, she was reading when actually she wasn't. She was seeing the picture because they would do it so much at school. She'd see the picture and know memory. But then when they're 7, then when it starts to get a bit more complicated, a bit more vocabulary, and I couldn't understand how I would tell her what the word is, and a couple of seconds after she would just forget it.
And you knew about dyslexia at the time? Or?
I knew about dyslexia. I knew dyslexia existed because Tom Cruise has dyslexia and I used to like him. But I used to, I used to know what dyslexia is roughly. I know you can't read and write, but it's much more than that as well. And it's a spectrum. And I remember I took her for testing. I spoke to a family member and she told me, she suggested to take her for testing. And I did, because I followed up. And her dyslexia is very mild because, as I mentioned before, it's a spectrum. And she could copy correctly as well from the board. So that's another sign when they don't copy, or as they write a mirror image. They can't tell the B from the D, and they're right, actually.
And usually that is the misconception, that dyslexia is all about that.
No, it isn't. It's a bit more. So anyway, she got her result that, yes, she's dyslexic, because obviously she's age appropriate in everything except in reading. That is why cognitively she was okay, age appropriate, but then in reading, her reading age was well below her biological age. So that is where the mismatch happens, and that is how, well, in simple terms, I'm not a professional, I'm in this area, I'm just a parent. I've studied about dyslexia even for assignments because I took the opportunity. But that is how it is. Now, for her, it didn't impact her life because she's on the milder side of dyslexia. But then I have twin boys who are both dyslexic at the same time, so that was very upsetting for me, because you're dealing with different persons anyway, because they're individuals in their own right, and different type of dyslexia as well.
Yeah.
Because dyslexia impacts you emotionally, psychologically, socially, obviously academically, mostly, and it never really goes away.
Yeah.
You navigate around it. You find strategies that work for you. In fact, all the three of them had dreams, and they reached their dreams. So they weren't my dreams; they were theirs. But they wanted to study and to continue to progress. So they progressed to a degree. One has a master's degree as well. They just had to study and work so much harder than anybody else, because reading to people who don't have dyslexia comes automatically. That is why I could never understand why she couldn't see and read look. Because I see look and it comes to my mind look. But for them, they have to decode it. And even when they have literacy support, which is one-to-one, it is a system of decoding. Because that automaticity that comes to people who don't have dyslexia, that is where they lack. And they need to merge as well. They need to merge sounds, which is a problem as well for them. Just like sequences is a problem. For instance, you cannot say, look, Daniel, I'd like you to go outside and move my car, then I want you to get a bag from the kitchen, empty it into the fridge. Some of them go into the cupboard and just fold up the blood, like you've lost them. They cannot, So even instruction at school has to be
structured,
stepped, and 2 steps at a time. Now they're the other one. Otherwise they're lost, because the sequential memory as well, it affects a lot. And they even take it into your place of work, obviously. And for me, the way I see my children, it's always, there's a heavy backpack. There's always a heavy backpack. And then yes, you have to work harder, and then it's a lot of luck.